Ballots are being counted. We will soon know what the Dutch decided today. On this March 15th, the Ides of March are upon us. A new government for the Netherlands, a new fate for Europe. Tonight, a national election with continental consequences. I'm Brent Goff in Berlin. This is the day.
It is the third election after Brexit, after the American elections. We have the upcoming French and German elections.
I hope there will be a change, but there are too many parties at the moment in the Netherlands.
People feel misrepresented. I'm not Donald Trump. I am Geert Wilders from the Netherlands. And I believe that what is happening in America can happen all over the world.
And this is a chance for a big democracy like the Netherlands to make a point, to stop this toppling over of the domino stones of the wrong sort of populism.
Just continue the way we are doing now.
The wrong sort of populism is not addressing the real issues of the people, only making them bigger instead of solving them.
Also tonight, 6 years ago today, the Syrian civil war began, and the children have been suffering ever since. The cries of a generation that the world has simply set to mute. Their story is coming up later tonight. We begin the day counting the votes. The polling places in the Netherlands have closed, and exit polls tell us that the party of Prime Minister Mark Rutte is said to be the biggest winner. Now, the far-right populist party of Geert Wilders apparently has taken a beating at the ballot box. It could end up tied for second or third place, but it may also fall as far as fifth place. We want to go now to our correspondent, Oliver Sallet. He is standing by at The Hague, and he has the latest on the elections. Oliver, there you are. So what do we know with these exit polls?
Yeah, they're out now, the first exit polls, and it looks like Mark Rutte, as you've mentioned, is even stronger than the recent polls suggest. That's quite a surprise. He is even stronger than 2 days ago during the TV debate. The polls that were brought at this day showed a very close neck-to-neck race. And what we see now is that Rutte is strongest with 31 seats in Parliament, and then followed by several other parties. Among them, of course, also Geert Wilders and his right-wing Freedom Party. And it's been a very close, tough race. And it looks like that many of the undecided voters that they might have now chosen to vote for their acting Prime Minister Mark Rutte.
You know, Oliver, this election has been portrayed as a contest between two men and two paths. But we also have to remember there are 28 parties that were competing in this election, right?
Yeah, it's a very fragmented party system, very confusing also for the voters themselves even. 28 parties, as you've mentioned, and 14 of them might end up in Parliament. And then again, to form a government now under the current circumstances, it would need 4 to 5 coalition partners. If Rutte wins, that means that he'll have to look out for 3 or 4 partners. But there are no 3 or 4 other conservative partners of the same political spectrum. So what happens is that Rutte will have to find one party outside the political spectrum, and there will be certainly complicated negotiations in the next weeks to come.
And if the ballot counting goes on as in other election years in the Netherlands, when will we be able to make the first, the real predictions with strong certainty? I mean, can we go ahead and say that there will be a winner?
Well, first of all, this election is a bit different. There used to be electronic voting, and they now went back to paper ballots, really. So today, people had to make their crosses with a red pencil on a sheet, on a ballot, on a paper ballot, and they were then cast manually. And the results later are added on computers, added together on computers without internet connection. And that is all because of fears that Russian hackers might intervene here in these these elections, and they just wanted to play the safe card here. And that, of course, results in the fact that it takes a bit longer than in recent years. So we are expecting the first results here around 11 Central European time. Okay. And then we might have the first prediction with strong certainty around midnight.
All right, that's interesting. Paper ballots as a defense against hackers. That's the 21st century for you. All right, Oliver Sallett for us at The Hague. Oliver, thank you very much. Yeah, no matter how this election turns out tonight, there is one constant. The far right and populist views were able to steal the show more often than they had to share the stage in the campaign. I'm joined now here at the big table by Job Janssen. He is a Dutch journalist and author. Let's see if we can move the camera and show. There you are, Mr. Janssen. You're an author with a focus on right-wing populism.
Yep.
So I would dare say that more people now know the name Geert Wilders than know the name Mark Rutte. Is that a sign then that, you know, the populist voice won this election?
No, I think that's an overstatement.
Okay.
This is not the best election result Geert Wilders ever had. Yep. I think in 2010 his score was even higher. No, that does show that he is a permanent force in Dutch politics. However, I mean that has been clear. But I think Geert Wilders is not really satisfied with this result. He was up in the polls until a few weeks ago, and he saw a big drop in the last weeks.
How do you explain the drop that he has seen in the last week? Because, just like you said, he was doing very well in the polls.
Yeah. Well, I think it's always with right-wing populist parties, it's easier to say in a poll that you're going to vote for a right-wing populism. But when the real question is on the table, who is going to govern this country, people think twice, part of the people. And they saw a Mark Rutte last weekend, the Prime Minister last weekend, acting against Erdogan in a pretty fierce way.
Right.
So, and that's the kind of authoritarian kind of politics that many of these voters like. And I think the combination of these two now explains the gap between Wilders and Rutte at this
That's
moment.
interesting, though. So what you're saying is that this row with Turkey may have actually benefited the established parties, right? And it may actually be keeping stability in politics in the Netherlands.
Yeah, that would be a little bit cynical point of view, but it actually did. It was for Rutte. It was a great moment to show that he has authority, that he is not afraid to make big choices. You know, Rutte is known for his diplomatic way of dealing with issues, the master of silent diplomacy, and all of a sudden he shows his teeth. And I think this, for many voters, especially for many right-wing populist voters, thought like, hey, well, this is our man now, and he's the guy who can cover the country as well.
I want you to take a listen to what Wilders said today. This clip begins after a reporter asked Wilders whether his campaign had been built on fear. Take a look.
Well, those are all lies. We are having, I believe, a bigger support by the common Dutch people who have nothing with fear and bigotry. And I think that many European people believe that we should regain national sovereignty, be in charge of our own destiny, of our own immigration policy, our own fiscal policy, that we should not spend money to all foreign countries or foreign persons where at the same time we neglect our own people. And a lot of people are angered by that.
But does that give you confidence, what Donald Trump did?
Of course it gives me confidence, but it's once again, we are our own people. I'm not Donald Trump. I am Geert Wilders from the Netherlands, and I believe that what is happening in America can happen all over the world. Whatever the outcome of the elections today, the genie will not go back into the bottle, and this patriotic revolution, whether today or tomorrow, will take place anyway.
I mean, quite a day for Wilders. Isn't it interesting that he is compared with Donald Trump? And you could tell he wasn't particularly enthused about that comparison either.
No, not anymore, because he was very enthusiastic about Trump a few weeks ago, making the Netherlands great again. His slogan he used on his Twitter account. You know, now it's a mess in Trump's government. He doesn't want to be associated too much with it, obviously.
You have written that Wilders is not your usual far-right populist,
right.
at least not compared to his European counterparts, when we're talking about Marine Le Pen in France, or we're talking about Frauke Petry here in Germany. Well, what is he then?
He is still a right-wing populist, obviously, in the sense that he presents himself as outside of the establishment, battling a corrupt political elite. But what he also does, and that's quite different from Le Pen or from Frauke Petry, that he is constantly speaking about the concept of freedom. And freedom, in his eyes, means like the pluriform, society that we had in the Netherlands, maybe in the 80s and the 70s. With Jews, homosexuals, and Suriname, people from the colonies, they all are a part of it in his eyes, and this is being threatened by a liberal Islam as he sees it.
Yeah, and it's interesting for Wilders, supporting the European Union is tantamount to supporting the Islamification of Europe, but he did not always think that, did he?
No, absolutely not. He was a member of Prime Minister Rutte party. Then he was quite pro-European, internal market, and he was even quite mild on multiculturalism in the beginning and on Islam even. As soon as he exited the party, he radicalized quite rapidly, and we saw, for instance, when the problems in 2008 became bigger with the financial crisis and the economical crisis, you saw that he shifts his attention to the European Union as being even a worse political elite than we have in the Netherlands, that are too weak to stand up against Islamization. So he always connects Europe and Islamization with each other. He calls the EU Eurabia.
Eurabia, yeah, I've heard him say that. If he can pivot, though, as radically as he has done in the past, why not in the future? I mean, could the Geert Wilders in 2 years or 4 years be a completely different political animal? Do you see that as a possibility? I mean,
yeah. Well, the situation for him is now that he is a relatively big party, didn't become the biggest, but he's increasingly isolated. He had a frontal attack on the Dutch judges, on the Dutch parliament, calling it a fake parliament.
Right.
So that places him, that makes him offside for all the rest of the parties. Nobody wants to cooperate with him anymore, and of course, to be heard by the crowd, it's a logical step to radicalize even more, because this man doesn't have much money for his campaign. This only thing he can do is, causing a stir in the political debate, and that's what he is mastering. But
and you wouldn't say then, the way the exit polls are looking, he does not come out of this election tonight looking good, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Okay. All right, Job Janssen, thank you very much for your insights. Thank you, and dank je wel.
Graag gedaan.